We talked a lot last time about Mama and Papa when they got married in 1909, and they moved in Papa's home place, but Papa's mama and daddy had already died. Papa's daddy died in 1903, and his mother died in 1907. So they were out of the picture when Papa and Mama got married. And Papa was the sixth of 7 children. Andrew, Uncle Andy, was the oldest. Then came Rose Honor, Mame Mary, Ada, James Austin, William Singleton, and finally Ellen Virginia, Aunt Ellen. And of the 7 children, Andy, then 36 years old, was the only one living outside the home. But I remember Uncle Andy and his wife, Aunt Vaney, really well. They had 4 children: Cynthia, James, Louise, and Mitchell. Cynthia married Pinkstep. James never married. Louise married Fax Jones. And Mitchell married Ethel Laura Annie Davis. Mama told me during an interview I had with her in 1985 that she and Papa lived in a house that he had built on the James Wilkerson estate, which became Bee Hive over there, just across from the present Ray Lyda house. Andy must have contracted Papa to build a house there because he was interested in establishing housing on the Bee Hive property there.
Okay, what started Bee Hive Inn is keeping the teachers from St. Paul's School. And then they began to build the church about the same time as they were building the Bee Hive and adding on. People would come. Grandpa had 100 hives of honeybees, and he kept them on the front porch. Is what started Bee Palace Inn. And the guests would sit on the front porch, and they didn't like all those honeybees buzzing around. So grandmother had him to move the bee gums around to the back of the hotel. And there's a rock wall along the back side of the hotel, still there, and that is where the 100 hives of honeybees stayed, back there. And there was always applesauce and honey on every table, so to have with the hot biscuits. Wow. People would come, and then they would build some cabins, clear land with the wood that they got from clearing the land, build log cabins. Families loved to stay in cabins that had their own kitchen, but don't kid yourself, they didn't cook meals. They all came down to the dining room and ate. Those women didn't want to cook. 3 meals, 3 full, heavy meals were served every day: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Grandmother Lyda did all the cooking, and she was a wonderful cook. I can remember seeing her put a whole leg of beef into the oven, roast beef. I can remember the big pans of biscuits. I can remember Daddy mainly, but everybody planting that big garden over where Lynn's trailer is today. All of that was a garden. And that was for the purpose of having fresh vegetables to have with the meals at the Bee Hive Inn. And you know how much time it takes to prepare vegetables. You know, shelling peas and breaking beans, and it takes a lot of work and time for that. And imagine what it would be like to launder all those sheets. You know, people leaving out, coming in all the time. And that employed a lot of the local people to wash the linens and hang it on the line out there to dry, and starching and ironing the pillowcases.
Yeah.
I told you about the vegetables. Grandmother had 10 cows, and Shirley and I had to milk those things of an evening. Now, Daddy and Grandmother milked them of a morning, but we had to milk them of an evening. 10. And she had a whole, I can't begin to tell you how many pigs. And that would be the bacon and fatback and the hams and the shoulders, you know, to have for the inn. She had brood houses, and in there she had incubators. And she would set the eggs in those incubators, and it had light bulbs in there for heat.
So they had electric lights in 1928.
Run by battery. Delco battery. Do you see right there? Mm-hmm. Delco light. Delco light plant number 321 with 1,500 volts. Right there. September the 6th, 1928. She'd put them eggs in there along about February, and there's little dibbies would hatch out. And then springtime, you know, little dibbies, they were up 2 or 3 pounds, and she would be dressing out those chickens and picking them, wringing the necks, picking the feathers off, saving the feathers for the pillows. And she would say, "Come on, Bob, you know how, come help me." So I learned to wring the necks and pick the feathers. And she had all these chickens laying eggs everywhere. And she would take those eggs and put salt, a layer of salt, and a layer of eggs into a container. Turns, and a lot of pottery. And those eggs would stay where she had her canned goods in a cool building. And she used those eggs when the boarders started coming in May. When the chickens stopped laying eggs, she had all these packed away in salt in crockery jars. I can't remember everything, but it just never ends.
Right.
And the rooms in the hotel were primitive. The whole thing was made with bead ceiling. The lumber was bead ceiling. And there'd be a double bed in there, most likely with brass bedsteads. And every room had it was for bathing, It had a bowl and a pitcher and a slop jar down underneath. No private baths. So you'd use the slop jar at night, and then you'd have to take it and empty it into the bathroom the next morning. And then there was a little tin house in the back of the log cabins. The row of log cabins was a little tin house. And that was for the purpose of heating the water so they could all have a hot shower.
With fire?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You had to make a fire and heat the water so they could have a hot shower. And I remember in the inn, Grandmother had these huge aluminum vats that she kept boiling water on that stove. And that was to wash the dishes and sterilize the dishes. And it would make us so mad if people got to taking showers long about the time we needed that hot water to sterilize the silverware. And we would get so mad at that because they had to use our hot water to take a bath. Well, after the inn was built, and I can't tell you the year that the annex was built, and that was for the purpose of having square dances. You know, Bee Hive had their night, Black Hotel had their night. Monday night was always street dances in Hendersonville. Saturday night was always the big dance on top of Jump Off Mountain. Wouldn't miss that. And mostly the Ledbetter boys up here, Beecher Ledbetter and all of those, played some kind of an instrument. Fiddle, a banjo, several guitars, harmonicas, whatever they played, they came. But I can remember them dancing in the big room at the annex. They'd do the grand promenade, dance around the room, outside and down the steps and around the parking lot, back up the steps and back in the building. And everybody remembers Bee Hive square dances.
Wow.
So there was just a lot going on. And a lot of work going on, Tim.
Yeah.
My husband, AC, and Daddy remodeled the cabins, and they were being rented very well. So then they started on the Bee Hive on the second floor, on the end room, and they took 2 rooms and made it into a suite so that you had a bedroom and a private bath with tub and shower, and then a front room, a front sitting room, and then there was the big front porch. We tried to close down by the time of cold weather. When we closed down the inn, we had to go work in the apple shed. And we'd run apples till 10 o'clock every night and pack apples.
Was it Mitchell who got the orchard started?
Mm-hmm. Andrew did start the orchard some. But as a young man, Andrew got trouble. And he had to go to Asheville and have a big operation by Dr. Grantham. That was a big deal. And a lot of people didn't live through that operation. No antibiotics or nothing. And so he was not strong after that, and Grandpa Lyda did very little work after that operation. And Daddy was the youngest son, and he just took over the orchard and kept expanding more and more. A lot like Jeff Lyda today.
Really?
Yeah.
That's Michael's son.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And is it Jeff's wife that helps some of the other family, Taylor?
She helps some, yes. Saturday morning, she keeps Taylor while Laura, her mother, cleans houses. That's how Laura makes her money, cleaning houses. Alicia keeps her Saturday morning.
Alicia.
Mm-hmm. I keep her Friday morning. Lynn keeps her Thursday morning. And then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, she's full-time mama. She is the greatest mama in the whole wide world. And she would say to Taylor, let's have some fun today. What would you like to do? On Wednesday, mostly, they go to J&S Cafeteria, River Ridge Mall, because Taylor likes their cube steak and gravy. And they've got things planned for Tuesday and Monday. I can't tell you what they are, but Laura does what Taylor wants to do. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Gets
Awesome.
up early, goes to Hardee's every morning because Taylor likes biscuits and gravy.
Everybody pitches in.
Mm-hmm. And everybody remembers Bee Hive. There was just a lot going on. And a lot of work going on, Tim.
Yeah, it's a very special time. Thank you.